I pay for everything but have no say in anything. The night my stepchildren declared they only answer to their biological parents. I smiled, opened my notebook, and started crossing off items: house, phones, privileges, keys. That night, no one was thrown out. I simply changed the rules of the game. And when they came back, the door wouldn't open with the old key anymore. My name is Ava Whitaker, and at 34, I'd built my life with the precision of a Swiss watch. Every morning at 5:45 a.m., my alarm would sound, and I'd be at my desk at Riverton and Lane Realty by 7 sharp. In Austin's cutthroat real estate market, you don't survive on talent alone, you survive on discipline, client relationships, and the ability to close deals that others walk away from. I'd been single for 5 years after walking away from a relationship that taught me the difference between being needed and being valued. Those years weren't lonely, they were productive. My client list read like a who's who of Austin's tech elite. My calendar was color-coded closings in blue, showings in green, client appreciation events in gold. The appreciation events were my signature quarterly wine tastings, private art gallery tours, things that made clients remember why they chose me over the 100 other agents promising them the world. Then I met Daniel Hayes at a charity auction for the Austin Education Foundation. 42, divorced, mergers and acquisitions lawyer with the kind of presence that made boardrooms quiet when he entered. But what struck me wasn't his career or his tailored suits. It was how his entire face changed when he talked about his 3 kids. Lena, 16, who saw the world through camera lenses. Max, 14, whose life revolved around baseball seasons. Nora, 11, who could argue her way out of anything and planned to make a career of it. "They're with me every other week," he'd explained over our third dinner, his fingers unconsciously straightening his napkin. "Kara, my ex, she's CEO at a biotech startup. Travels constantly. Beijing 1 week, London the next." The house I'd bought 3 years ago suddenly seemed too big for just me. 5 bedrooms, a heated pool, a game room I'd furnished but never used. I'd bought it as an investment, telling myself I'd flip it eventually. But watching Daniel's eyes light up when I mentioned the pool, imagining his kids there, something shifted. I kept meticulous records of everything, always had. Spreadsheets for my business expenses, separate ones for personal. When Daniel and the kids started spending time at my place, I created a new tab, Family Expenses. Pool heating uptick $200 monthly. Streaming services upgraded to family plans $40. Grocery bills tripled. The photography studio I set up in the garage for Lena, $3,200. Baseball camp fees for Max, $1,800 per season. Debate club coaching for Nora, $200 monthly. I didn't mind. Not then. I'd spent 5 years building wealth with no one to share it with. The house felt alive for the first time, towels actually needing washing. The kitchen island covered in homework. Arguments over Netflix passwords. Daniel contributed what he could, but between his alimony and child support payments to Kara, his financial flexibility was limited. "You sure you're okay with this?" he'd ask, finding me updating my expense tracking late at night. "We're building something together," I'd tell him, meaning it. The marriage came 8 months later. Small ceremony in the backyard, the kids in the wedding party. Lena took the photos, they were actually quite good. Max gave a speech that made everyone laugh about how I'd learned his entire team's batting averages just to have something to talk about. Even Nora, usually so guarded, hugged me after the ceremony and whispered, "Welcome to the chaos." I thought I was. The honeymoon phase lasted exactly 3 months. I can pinpoint the precise moment it ended, a Tuesday evening at 6:15 p.m. when I asked Max to set the table and he looked straight through me like I was furniture. "Max." I'd tried again, keeping my voice light. "Dinner's almost ready." He didn't move from the couch, eyes glued to his phone. Daniel, sitting beside him, finally nudged his shoulder. "Hey, buddy, help Ava out." "In a minute." "Dad." Not hostile. Exactly. Just dismissive, like I was the housekeeper asking him to do something optional. Daniel gave me an apologetic smile and went back to his laptop. The minute never came. I set the table myself. These micro-rebellions multiplied like cells dividing. House rules: I'd established no phones during dinner, homework before gaming. Everyone responsible for their own laundry became suggestions, then memories. "We don't do it that way at Mom's," became Nora's favorite phrase, delivered with an innocent shrug that wasn't innocent at all. The schedule board I'd installed in the kitchen, meant to coordinate our busy lives, slowly emptied of the kids' commitments. They'd tell Daniel their plans, and he'd sometimes remember to tell me. Sometimes, "Dad said I could," became the magic password that overrode any boundary I tried to set. Lena staying out past 11 on school nights. Max having friends over without asking. Nora commandeering my home office for her debate prep, leaving it scattered with papers and empty energy drink cans. I tried connecting one-on-one, when Lena mentioned wanting to photograph the Austin skyline at sunset. I cleared my Thursday evening, drove her to the perfect spot I'd scouted on Mount Bunnell. She spent the entire time texting, took 3 half-hearted shots, and asked to leave early. "Mom's calling from Shanghai," she said, though I hadn't heard her phone ring. For Max's travel team playoffs, I rearranged 2 closings, brought homemade signs, learned the difference between an RBI and an ERA. When he struck out in the 7th inning, he walked past me to where Daniel stood by the fence. I heard him mutter, "This is why Mom doesn't come to these things. Too much pressure with all the watching." With Nora, I offered to help prep for her debate tournament, having won state myself in high school. "Thanks, but Mom hired me a professional coach," she said sweetly. She says family help can create bad dynamics. The worst part was Daniel's refusal to see it, or maybe his refusal to act on what he saw. "They're still adjusting," he'd say, pulling me close in bed after another dinner where I'd been treated like wallpaper. The divorce was hard on them. The divorce was 2 years ago. I'd remind him, "You know what I mean." I did. I knew exactly what he meant. He meant he'd rather be their friend than their parent. He meant he'd rather I absorb their disrespect than risk them preferring their mother's house. He meant his guilt was stronger than his partnership with me. The transformation was subtle but complete. Within our first 6 months of marriage, I'd gone from Ava to Dad's wife in their vocabulary. My home became Dad's new place. My carefully prepared dinners became obligations to endure before they could retreat to their rooms I'd furnished, with gaming systems I'd bought, using Wi-Fi I paid for. Daniel played good cop to my implied bad cop, though I'd never asked for the role. When I mentioned the mounting disrespect, he'd say things like, "Let's not make a big deal out of it," or, "They're good kids, just give them time," or my favorite, "You knew I had kids when you married me." Yes, I did. But I'd thought I was marrying a father, not a friend trying to win a popularity contest with his own children. The pattern crystallized over the next 3 months, each incident adding another crack to the foundation I'd tried to build. They weren't dramatic confrontations that would have been easier to address. Instead, it was death by 1,000 cuts, each one so small Daniel could dismiss it as insignificant. Sunday dinners became a masterclass in exclusion. They'd reference inside jokes from before, conversations with their mother, plans that didn't include me. When I'd contribute to the conversation, there'd be a pause, not rude exactly, just long enough to make clear I'd interrupted something. "Remember when Mom made that pasta in Venice?" Lena would say, twirling her fork in the bolognese I'd spent 3 hours preparing. "The one with the seafood? That was amazing." Max would chime in. "We should go back there this summer," Nora would add, looking directly at Daniel. "Mom said she'd take us if Dad agrees to switch vacation weeks." Daniel would glance at me, then mumble something about discussing it later. Later never came, but the vacation plans somehow solidified anyway. The house began to feel like contested territory. My home office became a pass-through room to the pool. My yoga mat would mysteriously migrate from the sunroom. The kitchen I'd organized with professional precision devolved into chaos items never returned to their places. Dishes left in the sink despite the dishwasher being empty. "Hey guys, let's keep the kitchen clean," I'd say, trying for casual. Silence. Daniel, From his laptop. Kids, help out a bit. Okay. Sure, Dad. And they would barely, minimally, just enough for Daniel to feel he'd handled it. The phrase that began to haunt my days was, "You're not my mother." Not shouted, not angry, just stated as fact whenever I asked for anything beyond passing the salt. Max perfected the delivery matter of fact, almost puzzled, as if I'd forgotten something obvious. "Max, please take your cleats off before coming inside." "You're not my mom." "No, but this is my house, and Dad." He'd call out, already walking past me. "Ava's making up rules again." Making up rules? In my own home, Daniel's response was always some variation of conflict avoidance. "Let's all just try to get along." Or, "Ava's requests are reasonable, buddy," said in a tone that suggested they were anything but. I started documenting everything in my phone's notes app. Not to build a case I wasn't thinking that far ahead yet, but to reassure myself I wasn't going crazy. Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Asked Lena to turn music down during my conference call. She turned it up. Friday, 4 p.m. Found my client presentation materials scattered across game room. Nobody knows how they got there. Sunday, noon. Nora used my laptop without asking, changed all my browser settings. When confronted, called Kara to complain about privacy issues at Dad's. The kids had mastered the art of plausible deniability. Nothing was ever malicious enough to warrant serious consequences. But the cumulative effect was clear. I was an interloper in my own home. They developed a phone tree for avoiding my authority. If I said no to something, they'd call Daniel. If Daniel wasn't immediately available, they'd call Kara. Kara, who hadn't been inside my house once, somehow had opinions about my household rules. "Kara thinks 10 p.m. is too early for a weekend curfew," Lena would announce, phone in hand. "Kara says making kids do their own laundry teaches responsibility," Nora would declare, while actively not doing her laundry. "Mom says I should be able to have friends over whenever," Max would state, as if Kara's words were law in my living room. The breaking point was building, decision by decision, slight by slight. Daniel's refusal to see, or perhaps his refusal to act on what he saw, became more damaging than the kid's behavior. Every time he chose the path of least resistance, he told them my feelings, my comfort, my authority meant less than their whims. "You're overreacting," became his favorite phrase, usually delivered while rubbing my shoulders, as if the problem was my tension rather than its cause. I wasn't overreacting. I was watching myself disappear in my own home, one dismissed boundary at a time. The quarterly client appreciation event was my signature move, what separated Riverton and Lane's top performers from everyone else. This quarter's event was particularly crucial 23 high-net-worth investors, including Robert Kellman, who was considering a $40 million portfolio expansion in Austin's tech corridor. I'd spent 2 months planning the evening private chef, sommelier, string quartet. The house gleamed. Every surface reflected the soft lighting I'd arranged. The caterers had transformed my dining room into something from Architectural Digest. By 7:45 p.m., my clients were mingling on the terrace, admiring the view, commenting on the gorgeous home. "Ava, this is spectacular," Robert Kellman said, surveying the scene. "This is why we work with you attention to detail." That's when the music started upstairs, not background music thundering bass that made the wine glasses vibrate. "Excuse me for just a moment," I said, maintaining my professional smile. I found Lena in her room, speakers at maximum volume, door wide open. "Lena, I have an event. Please use your headphones." She looked at me, made eye contact, and turned the volume higher. I unplugged the speaker. "What the hell?" she shouted loud enough for guests to hear downstairs. "We discussed this morning." "Dad," she screamed. "Ava's in my room touching my stuff." Daniel appeared, saw my face, saw the guests visible through the hallway window. "Oh, let's all just calm down." She invaded my privacy. Lena performed perfectly for her audience of one. "Ava, maybe just let her. I have 23 clients downstairs." And I live here, Lena shot back. This is my house too. Before I could respond, Max's voice carried from the terrace below. He'd found the dessert table and was loudly critiquing the catering to my client's teenage children. This stuff's pretentious. At my mom's company events, they have real food. I hurried downstairs to find him actively mocking the careful pronunciation of bruschetta to a group of amused teenagers while their parents looked on uncomfortably. Max, perhaps you could… What, I'm just talking. He popped an entire $60 cheese portion in his mouth. Free country. Then Nora's voice, from the living room where several clients had gathered. My mom says people who have to show off their houses are compensating for something. She was on the phone with Kara, on speaker, volume maximized. Is that right, sweetie? Kara's voice filled my living room. Well, some people need external validation. We've talked about that. My clients exchanged glances. Robert Kellman's wife touched his arm, the universal signal for time to leave. I should mention, Nora announced to the room, this isn't even really Ava's house. My dad lives here too. She just acts like it's hers. The exodus was polite but swift. 23 clients, millions in potential commissions. My professional reputation gone in 40 minutes. Robert Kellman stopped at the door. Ava, perhaps we should reconnect when things are more settled. After the last guest left, I found Daniel in the kitchen, kids flanking him like soldiers. That was unacceptable, I said, voice steady despite my shaking hands. They're kids. Ava, you shouldn't have scheduled this during their week here. Their week. This is my house, my career. See, Lena interrupted. It's always my with her. We only listen to our real parents anyway, Max added, casual as a knife between ribs. Yeah, Nora chimed in. We don't have to do what she says. She's just Dad's wife. I waited for Daniel to correct them, to stand up for me, for our marriage, for basic respect. He rubbed his face. Kids, that's not exactly… It's true, though, right, Lena pressed. She can't actually tell us what to do. She's not our parent. Daniel looked at me, then at them, then at the floor. Let's all just cool off. It's been a long night. I asked you a question, I said quietly. Do you agree with them that I have no authority in my own home? I think… He paused, choosing his words like a lawyer. I think we need to respect that they have two parents already. So that's a yes? Ava, you're being dramatic. No, I said, pulling out my phone, opening my banking app. I'm being clear. All 4 of you can leave. Now. I need to think. You can't kick us out. Max laughed. Dad lives here. I showed Daniel the mortgage statement, my name alone on the deed. Actually, I can, and I am. Get out. Come back tomorrow at noon. We'll discuss how this proceeds. The silence was beautiful. Lena's mouth opened and closed. Max looked to Daniel for backup that wasn't coming. Nora, for once, had nothing to say. Daniel stood slowly. Kids, get your overnight bags. As they filed out, I heard Lena whisper, She can't actually do this. Right, Dad. Daniel's response was too quiet to hear, but for the first time in months, none of them were laughing. The house felt different, empty, not lonely clarified, like seeing a painting properly lit after months of shadows. I poured myself a glass of the Bordeaux meant for clients and called Olivia Park. Ava, it's 10:30 p.m. What's wrong? I need legal clarity on property rights and financial obligations. Can you meet tomorrow morning? That sounds ominous. Divorce. No. Strategy. Olivia laughed the sharp bark of a woman who'd built her family law practice on precision rather than sympathy. My favorite kind. 8 a.m. My office. I spent the night with spreadsheets and contracts. The mortgage mine alone, predating the marriage. The utility accounts all in my name. The family phone plan my account. 4 additional lines. Streaming services my credit cards. The community center membership my annual fee covering family access. The documentation was beautiful in its clarity. By 3 a.m., I had itemized everything: housing and utilities for $800-month mortgage, property tax, insurance, utilities, digital services, 340-month family phone plan, internet, streaming packages, extracurriculars, 2,400-month photography studio rental for Lena, baseball training for Max, debate coaching for Nora memberships, 450-month community center, pool maintenance increase with usage, incidentals, $1 200-month additional grocery costs, household supplies, cleaning service for their areas, annual total $110 to $280 annual contribution from Daniel, $0 for household, sporadic groceries, his own car payment. At Olivia's office, she reviewed everything with the satisfaction of a surgeon examining perfect imaging. "Legally, you're golden," she said. "The house is yours. Premarital asset, never commingled. Every service contract is yours to modify. The interesting part is, Daniel, Texas is a community property state, but he's contributed nothing to these expenses. You've essentially been subsidizing his custodial time. Can I cut them off the services? Your contracts, your call. The kids aren't tenants, they're guests. Daniel's a guest too, technically, since the house is solely yours. But I don't want a divorce. I want respect." Olivia leaned back. "Then you need leverage. What you're describing: financial support without authority, that's not sustainable. You're not a sponsor, you're a spouse. So, what do you recommend? Document everything. Set clear boundaries with clear consequences. And Ava." She paused. "Stop asking for permission to have authority in your own home." I returned home to transform strategy into action. First, the locks. A locksmith arrived at 10 a.m., replacing everything with smart locks I could control from my phone. Then, the digital purge removed 3 lines from my phone plan, changed every streaming password, canceled the kids' premium subscriptions, suspended their community center access cards. For each child, I packed a small bag, 3 days of clothes, basic toiletries, school supplies, nothing extra. Alongside each bag, I placed a handwritten letter. "Lena, your photography equipment remains here, paid for and maintained by me. Your portfolio hosting service, Adobe Suite, and studio access are suspended. These are privileges, not rights. Respect is the minimum payment required for their restoration. Ava Max, your travel team fees for next season have not been paid. Your equipment bag and training sessions are canceled. Your position on the team requires a $1 $800 commitment by Friday. I'm happy to discuss terms. Ava Nora, your debate coach has been notified of a payment pause. The research databases and competition fees are on hold. Your tournament next month requires confirmation by Monday. Let's talk about accountability." Ava, for Daniel, I prepared something different, a printed breakdown of every expense, every dismissed boundary, every moment he'd chosen comfort over partnership. At the bottom, I wrote, "I'm not asking to be their mother. I'm requiring to be respected as an adult in my own home. Your children stated they only answer to their biological parents. Fine. Then their biological parents can provide everything beyond basic necessities. I'll provide exactly what I'm legally obligated to: nothing. If you want to continue living here, if you want our marriage to survive, we need immediate change, mandatory family therapy, united front on all household rules, basic respect for my authority in my home, non-negotiable, non-flexible." The doorbell camera alerted me at 11:58 a.m. They were punctual, Daniel's influence. I watched them discover their keys didn't work, saw the confusion ripple across their faces. I opened the door exactly at noon, wearing my best business casual, holding my coffee like armor. "Welcome back. We need to discuss new arrangements." They stood on my porch like visitors, which was exactly the point. Daniel stepped forward first, reaching for the doorknob out of habit. The smart lock didn't recognize his thumb. "The locks are new," I said, stepping aside to let them enter. "Among other changes?" They filed in slowly, Max pulling out his phone immediately. "Wi-Fi's not working." "It's working fine." The password changed. What's the new? We'll discuss that after our conversation. Lena was already scrolling frantically. My phone has no data. Correct. You're no longer on my plan. What? All three kids turned to Daniel, who was reading the papers I'd left on the entry table. Dad, she can't. Actually, I can. I walked to the living room, gesturing for them to follow. 4 bags sat in a row on the coffee table. These are your essentials for the next 3 days. Your rooms remain available for sleeping and studying. Everything else is suspended pending our discussion. This is insane, Lena said. My portfolio deadline is next week. I need the studio, my editing software, all of which I pay for, $700 monthly for your photography pursuits alone. Dad pays nothing. I opened my laptop, displaying the expense spreadsheet. Would you like to see the receipts? Every Adobe charge, every studio hour, every piece of equipment. Daniel's face was stone. Ava, can we discuss this privately? No. Your children made their position clear last night. They only recognize parental authority. Fine. I'm not their parent. Therefore, I have no obligation to provide parental support. Max laughed, bitter and disbelieving. You can't just cut us off. I'm not cutting you off. I'm establishing boundaries. There's a difference. I pulled out 3 contracts. These outline the terms for restored privileges. Nora grabbed hers first, reading aloud. Household respect agreement. This is stupid. Then don't sign it. Your debate coach charges $200 per session. Your tournament registration is $300. Your research database subscriptions are $80 monthly. I'm sure your biological parents can handle it. Mom's in London and has Venmo. I assume. The panic was starting to set in. Lena had found the studio's website on her phone, realizing her access code had been deactivated. Max discovered his travel team's parent portal now showed an outstanding balance. Nora's debate coach had already texted about the scheduling confusion. This is blackmail, Daniel said quietly. This is consequences. I stayed calm, clinical. Last night, your children told me I have no authority here. You agreed, so I'm honoring that. They want to answer only to their biological parents. Perfect. Their biological parents can provide for them. Where are we supposed to live? Max demanded. Here, if you follow the house rules. At your mother's if you prefer. Your choice. Mom's in London, Nora repeated, louder. Then I guess you'll need to decide what matters more, your pride or your comfort. Lena turned to Daniel, tears starting. Dad, do something. Daniel looked at the contracts. What exactly are you asking for? Read it. I pulled up the main document on my laptop. 3 requirements. First, mandatory family therapy. I've already contacted Dr. Martinez. She has availability Thursday evenings. Second, unified rules. When I set a boundary, you support it, publicly, immediately. No undermining, no ask your dad, no separate negotiations. Third, basic respect. I'm addressed politely. My property is treated carefully, and my contributions are acknowledged. And if we don't agree, Daniel asked, then you'll need to find alternative housing within 30 days. Texas law is clear on property rights. Olivia Park drew up the papers this morning. If you'd like to review them. The silence stretched. Max broke first. This is so messed up. We don't even like you. That's fine. You don't have to like me, but you will respect me if you want to live in my house, use my Wi-Fi, enjoy my pool, and benefit from my financial support. I'll call Mom, Lena said, pulling out her phone. Good idea. Ask her to cover your November studio rental. It's due Monday, $750. Lena's thumb hovered over the screen. We all knew Kara's response to that request. Daniel stood suddenly. Kids, go to your rooms. But now. They went, slowly, and I heard Nora whisper, she can't actually do this. Right. When we were alone, Daniel turned to me. You've made your point. Have I? Because last night you couldn't even tell them I deserve basic respect in my own home. They're children. who are old enough to be deliberately cruel, who calculated exactly how to humiliate me professionally, who knew exactly what they were doing. He slumped into the chair. What do you want me to say? I want you to choose, your marriage or your comfort, being their father or their friend, because I'm done being the villain so you can be the hero. Either we're partners or we're not. Either this is our home, or it's my house where you're all guests. No more middle ground. And if I choose wrong, I handed him the separation agreement Olivia had prepared. Then we make it official. You'll have 30 days to find alternative housing. Standard Texas divorce proceedings. No alimony since you earn more. Clean break. He stared at the papers like they might bite him. You planned all this overnight. I executed it overnight. I've been planning it since the first time you let Max tell me I'm not his real parent without correction. From upstairs, muffled voices and footsteps. The kids were regrouping, strategizing. Let them. Every minute without their phones, without their streaming shows, without their comfortable bubbles was teaching them what I'd learned long ago. Comfort is currency, and currency requires negotiation. Daniel looked up. I need time to think. You have until 6 p.m. Then the locksmith comes back, and I'll need to know who gets the new codes. By 4 p.m., Daniel had made 17 calls. I knew because I could hear him pacing the back patio, voice rising and falling through the glass. His parents, first old-money Dallas conservatives who'd never approved of the divorce, then his brother in Houston, his law partner, even his therapist, from the sounds of it. The kids had gone silent upstairs, too silent. At 4:30 p.m., I heard the garage door. Lena stood there with an empty memory card. I need my camera, for school. Your camera's in your room. The good one, in the studio. That's my camera. Lena. I bought it. $3,000, if you'd like to see the receipt. Her face crumbled. I have a project due. Then you'll need to problem solve. Your biological parents raised a resourceful young woman. I'm sure. She turned to leave, then spun back. Why are you being such a careful? I warned. You're about to burn a bridge you might need. At 5:15 p.m., Daniel came inside, phone in hand. I need to talk to you. Privately. We went to my office, formerly our office, but I'd already removed his things. I called Kara, he said, and she laughed, said this was between me and my new situation. Her words. Smart woman. Then she said something else. Said maybe the kids need to learn about consequences. Said she's tired of being the bad cop while I'm... He paused. While you're what, Disney Dad, her term? I waited. My parents think I should call your bluff. Take the kids and leave. It's not a bluff. Daniel, the papers are real. The locksmith is confirmed for 6. My brother thinks you're right. That surprised me. Really. Said I've been letting them walk all over you since day 1. Said he saw it at the wedding, how they barely acknowledged you during the ceremony. He rubbed his face. I thought I was keeping the peace. You were keeping your peace, at my expense. His phone buzzed. A text from Max. Dad, we're hungry. She won't give us the DoorDash password. There's food in the kitchen, I said, reading over his shoulder. They can cook. They don't know how. Then they can learn. YouTube exists. Another buzz. Nora. Mom says Ava can't legally withhold food. I laughed, actually laughed. Withhold food. The kitchen has everything. Pasta, sauce, pre-marinated chicken, salad kits, fruit, leftovers from last night. What I'm withholding is servant duties. Daniel typed back, then deleted, then typed again. Finally, he put the phone down. So what happens if I agree to your terms? Then we start fresh. Real rules, real consequences, real partnership. And the kids get to choose, respect and privileges, or neither. They'll fight it. Let them. At 5:45 p.m., all 3 kids appeared in the doorway. Dad, Lena started. We pooled our money. We can pay for our own phone plans. I pulled up Verizon's website. Great. 3 lines. Unlimited data. Protection plans that's about $270 monthly, plus activation fees, plus deposit since you have no credit. Max deflated. We don't have that much. Then you'll need to budget. Or ask your biological parents. This is financial abuse, Nora announced, clearly having Googled the term. No, it's financial reality. I've been supplementing your lifestyle to the tune of $9,000 monthly. That's ending. Daniel stood. Kids, sit down. They sat, sensing a shift. Ava's right, he said simply. The betrayal on their faces was Oscar-worthy. Dad. No. His voice was firm, firmer than I'd heard it in months. Last night, you humiliated her, at her professional event, in her home. You've been disrespectful for months, and I've let it happen. You're taking her side, Max accused. I'm taking the side of basic decency. You want to act like she doesn't exist. Fine, but then her support doesn't exist either. Lena tried tears. Daddy, please. Don't. You're 16, not 6. You know exactly what you've been doing. The room went silent except for the wall clock. 5:52 p.m. So what now? Nora asked, voice small. Daniel looked at me, then back at them. Now you decide. Ava has agreements for you to sign. Basic respect, following house rules, attending family therapy. Sign them, and everything goes back Wi-Fi, phones, activities. Don't sign. And we'll be moving to a 2-bedroom apartment where you'll share rooms and have none of the luxuries you've gotten used to. You'd leave, Lena gasped. No, I'd choose my marriage. There's a difference. Max stood. This is bullshit. Language. Daniel and I said simultaneously. The kids noticed. I'll sign, Nora said suddenly. The other two stared at her. What, I have a tournament. I'm not losing my ranking because of pride. Nora, Lena hissed. You want to share a room with me in some crappy apartment because I don't. The clock hit 5:58 p.m. My phone was ready. Locksmith on speed dial. I need an answer, I said. Lena broke. Fine, I'll sign. Max was the last holdout, jaw clenched, eyes burning. 6 p.m. came and went. 6:01, 6:02. Max. Daniel prompted. Whatever, he muttered, grabbing the pen. I collected the signed agreements, placed them in my folder, and pulled out 3 items of paper with the Wi-Fi password, their reactivated phone confirmations, and a family therapy appointment card. Thursday, 7 p.m., don't be late. They scattered to their rooms, defeated but not broken. There would be more battles. I wasn't naive, but the power had shifted. Daniel stayed behind. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not leaving when anyone else would have. I didn't do it for you. I know. He paused at the door. I know. The dining room table had never felt more like a boardroom. 7 p.m. sharp. Thursday evening, 2 days after the initial confrontation. I'd arranged everything precisely. The family agreement centered on the dark wood, 4 pens lined up like soldiers, water glasses at each place setting. No dinner. This wasn't a social gathering. Daniel entered first, wearing his court suit. The kids followed. Lena in deliberate defiance wearing ripped jeans, Max in his baseball uniform claiming he had practice after, Nora with her debate notebook like armor. Sit, I said. Not a request. They sat. I remained standing. This is the family household agreement. 1 page, 12 points, clear consequences. Daniel will read it aloud. Daniel cleared his throat and began. Point 1. All household members will address each other with basic respect. No silent treatment. No walking away when spoken to. No dismissive language. Point 2. House rules apply equally to everyone. Curfews, chores. Screen time limits, no exceptions. No separate negotiations. Max shifted. Lena examined her nails. Point 3. Ava has full parental authority in this house. Her decisions stand unless both biological parents jointly oppose in writing. In writing, Nora interrupted. Keep reading, I said. Point 4 privileges are earned through consistent respect. Each violation results in specific suspensions detailed in Appendix A. Point 5. Family therapy is mandatory. Missing sessions means losing all privileges for 1 week. Point 6. Academic and extracurricular commitments require household contribution. For every $100 of activity costs, 5 hours of home maintenance. Lena's head shot up. That's like 20 hours a month for me. Then your photography must be very important to you, I replied. Daniel continued through points about shared spaces, guest policies, communication requirements. Point 11 made Max flinch. Any attempt to triangulate parents or manipulate household dynamics results in immediate suspension of all non-essential privileges for 2 weeks. Point 12, Daniel finished. This agreement is binding for 6 months, revisitable only through family therapy sessions. Silence. Questions. I asked. What if we don't sign? Lena tested. Then Daniel has a decision to make. I looked at my husband. Stay here under these terms without you, or leave with you for a place you can afford on his post-divorce budget. You'd really divorce Dad? Nora asked. I'd really choose self-respect over disrespect. Every time. Max laughed bitterly. This is just revenge for the client dinner. No. Revenge would be telling your college counselor why Lena's portfolio is late, or informing Max's coach about the vaping I pretended not to notice last month, or forwarding Nora's deleted Instagram posts to her debate coach, the ones about stupid rich bitches that were clearly about me. 3 faces went pale. This isn't revenge. This is structure. Mom will hear about this, Lena threatened. Already has, Daniel said. I forwarded everything. Her response. He pulled out his phone, read, About time someone taught them consequences. Maybe they'll be less entitled when they visit me. The betrayal in their eyes was profound. Their mother, their escape hatch, had sided with structure. I hate this, Max said quietly. That's fine, I responded. Sign or don't. But understand I've supported your lives for 2 years, asking only for basic courtesy in return. You couldn't even give me that. So now we have contracts. Nora picked up the pen first, practical as always. If I sign, my tournament fees are covered. Immediately. She signed with a flourish. Lena was crying now, real tears. Not manipulation. This isn't how families work. No, I asked. Then how do they work with one person paying everything while being treated like furniture, with children dictating terms to adults, with a father too conflict-averse to parent? Tell me. Lena, how should families work? She had no answer. She signed, tears dropping onto the paper. Max was last. I could just go live with Mom. She's in London until March, Daniel said, and she already said no to remote schooling. Trapped. Max signed with such force the pen tore through to the 2nd page. I collected the agreements, placed them in a folder, and set down 4 keys. New house keys. These work. Your access depends on honoring this agreement. What happens after 6 months? Nora asked. We evaluate. Either we've built enough mutual respect to continue without contracts, or we haven't. Either way, we'll know where we stand. Daniel stood, putting his hand on my shoulder, a united front. Family therapy starts next Thursday. Dr. Martinez expects all of us. The kids rose to leave. One more thing, I said. They turned. Your devices will have monitoring software installed tonight. Non-negotiable. You want privacy earned trust first. That's not in the agreement, Lena protested. Section 3, subsection B, additional measures as deemed necessary for household harmony. Your lawyers should have caught that. Max actually smiled barely, grudgingly. But there. You really thought of everything. I learned from the best. You 3 taught me that kindness without boundaries is just weakness. So, thank you for the education. They left then, heading to their rooms, my rooms, in my house, with my Wi-Fi, under my rules. Daniel stayed. Think it'll work? He asked. Doesn't matter. I won't live any other way. They can adapt or not. You can adapt or not. But I'm done adapting to disrespect. From upstairs, Lena's music started, then stopped immediately. She was learning. For what it's worth, Daniel said. I should have done this months ago. Yes, I agreed. You should have. I walked to my office alone now, and locked the door. On my desk was a photo from our wedding, the kids smiling, everyone playing perfect family. I turned it face down. They'd wanted me to know I wasn't their real parent. Message received. Now they were learning what that really meant, that respect isn't inherited through marriage or biology. It's earned through behavior, maintained through boundaries, and lost through entitlement. The house was quiet, not peaceful yet, but quiet. It was enough. For now. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. Your own experiences and perspectives mean everything to this community. Until next time, remember, your boundaries are valid, your respect is non-negotiable, and your peace is worth fighting for.